Welcome to this special bonus episode of the Passive House podcast. I'm Zach Semke, Director of Passive House Accelerator, and we're pleased to be sharing a series of bonus episodes recorded at the International Passive House Conference 2023 in Wiesbaden, Germany. These interviews were made possible by support from Icon Windows and Doors, Inotech Windows and Doors, Intelligent Membranes, Minitaire, and Proclima. Please enjoy this bonus episode.
You just facilitated or chaired this session.
Yes.
Do you remember the title of the session?
It was the Passive House Plus and Premium session, where folks were demonstrating or showing their successful Passive House Plus Premium projects.
Yeah. So I caught a couple of these, and I've just spoken to Ephra about the energy flows, and then you finished off with Ron Beatty. But quick summary from you. What did you any highlights?
Yeah, I think we saw a few fantastic Passive House Plus and Premium projects of all different scales.
Yep.
We saw a school. We saw some far north single-family homes. We saw some hot climate single-family homes. So we saw a real diversity of projects, and all of them achieving that Passive House Plus or Premium target. I think the common thread that really jumped out at me was a heavy focus on data analysis, data gathering and analysis, using that to optimize the functioning of the project and to inform people's designs as they move into the next, move into their next projects. So that heavy reliance on data gathering and data analytics really jumped out in a lot of the presentations. And it seems like with these tech-heavy projects with solar PV and on-site renewables, that data portion is really critical.
Where do you think that was coming from? Was that driven by the designers, or are they sort of geeky clients with these Passive House Plus and Premium?
I think what it seems like is with these more technology-heavy projects, Passive House Plus and Premium, by their nature, have on-site renewable energy generation. Yeah. So those are going to be more technologically heavy projects than a typical passive house, which might be more reliant on passive strategies. So by their very nature, they're gonna draw in a different clientele, different crowd, but they're also going to, I think, yield more information around data. When you have these solar PV systems on your home, they sort of come with a bunch of data analytics software.
So most of them they've probably got a dashboard or some sort of monitoring.
Precisely.
Anyway.
And I think the designers are sort of getting excited about those. But I also think with these more complicated projects, it takes a year or two to get them working well, to tune the mechanical systems, the renewable energy systems, the batteries, the PV, the on-site versus grid-connected consumption. There's a whole range of additional complexity for these Passive House Plus and Premium projects, and it's really hard to model. And so you almost have to, you model it, you do your best, and then you build it, and then you look and study the data, and you tune the building after the first season or two.
And that's interesting because you're talking about individual buildings that take that long.
That's right.
So is that scalable? I mean, how do we do that for, lots of buildings?
I think that in some ways, it's almost unavoidable. I mean, I think what we're running into is that we've sort of, not that we've hit the limit, but we've bumped up against some of the things that are really, really difficult, if not impossible, to model ahead of time. Yeah. What's the proportion of kilowatt hours that are going to your battery versus your car versus the grid? These are almost
because some of that's occupant behavior, right?
So it's it's a lot of it's behavior.
A lot harder to model than R value.
Exactly right. That's exactly, and it changes over time and seasons and occupancy. So you almost, where we're at now, is you almost do have to build it with the best intentions, the best model that you can do, and then revise your assumptions based on the real world data. And I think that with these types of projects, that's an almost unavoidable piece of the puzzle right now. Maybe we get to the place where we can model it once we have 30 years of measured data. But right now, that's kind of where we're at.
Barry McCarran?
Yes.
Also talked about indoor air quality, which is another great thing to be monitoring, because it's all well and good having low energy, but what's probably more important is that the interior is a good standard. What were you seeing? What was the
that was
standouts from that?
That was such a great presentation. He showed amazing monitored data both on CO2 inside the space. So this was a school project, and he was monitoring CO2 levels inside of the classrooms. He was also monitoring temperature, humidity, and overheating risk.
Yeah.
So especially with those types of non-residential projects where you have really high internal loads, those overheating risks
with 30 kids inside breathing.
Exactly, right? Like that's so important. So seeing monitor data around both of those aspects was also really, really valuable.
Yeah.
That's another place where it's very hard to model something like CO2 in any realistic way, right?
Yeah.
You kind of can, but realistically you can't.
Well, it's not just hard to model that; it's hard to design for it.
Yes,
because that's a big load.
That's
If you calculate the fresh air requirements with 30 plus people in a relatively small space, that's a lot of air.
You get these incredible peaks in the concentrations, right? When you have a conference room that sits open for half a year and then 30 people show up in it, all of a sudden you have a crazy peak. It's hard to manage on the modeling side. It's hard to manage on the equipment side.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to manage. And again, I think it really is one of those cases where you need to stay with the building once it's built and really evaluate the performance and then tune and adjust when your original assumptions prove to be slightly incorrect for one reason or another.
Yeah. And Spain looks pretty nice.
Yes, it does. From where I sit in my tiny apartment in New York City, yes, Spain looks awfully nice.
So Maria?
That's right.
Showed us a very nice premium house, premium in more ways than one by the looks of it.
A gorgeous project.
Very nice looking house in a pretty warm climate. So that was really interesting seeing the difference in the...
And humid. She made a point of being on the Costa del Sol in southern Spain, very warm, but also very humid because of the moisture off the ocean. So, a very challenging overheating climate to contend with.
Yeah, so big feature of that was a focus on the glazing and trying to limit the excess of internal gains from the glass, but it seemed to be managing.
The monitor data she was showing seemed to demonstrate very clearly that it was functioning exactly the way they wanted, both at the energy level, but also, as we're saying, almost just as importantly at the thermal comfort level. Right?
Well, the thing I caught the end of that one as well. The thing that interested me was that there were times when the energy went higher than what they were producing. But it was a conscious decision by the occupant, which she made that point a number of times, is that they have a swimming pool, they chose to heat it, but that's okay if you know, and you're empowered by the data, like you say, because they knew that for the rest of the year they're producing quite a lot more than what they were using. So it was actually okay to turn the heater on.
I think that's right. I think, yes, she was illustrating that even in Spain, if you heat your pool in October, you'll have some pretty high energy demand. They also had an electric car that was part of it. So there were a lot of really large electric loads there, but even so, they were able to come in at a remarkably near net zero.
And it's an empowered choice as well, because they're all right. And we'll finish off. Ron Beatty, pretty incredible story. The Beatty passive, it's hard to get the sense of the scale of what they're doing in the UK. Some pretty impressive prefabricated passive house plus, and a lot of prefabricated and is transportable but never gets transported. But it seems that he's making a point of having buildings that they sort of want to encourage them to be able to be moved if they need to, or very versatile, which unfortunately I think is going to be more demand.
For that sort of disaster response housing that he's targeting there.
I mean, he mentioned a few times homelessness, which is a disaster.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's not a natural disaster, it's one that we've kind of made by society, but
disaster nonetheless. I mean, what can you say? The world needs more Ron Beatties, right? I mean, that is such an amazing story, and such an amazing, both the projects that he's building, but even even more so the organization, the team, the focus on empowering and training young people, the sort of community focus, what else can you say? It's such an amazing story,
it is,
amazing guy, and amazing technology to go with it, right? I mean, the way that he's leveraging digital simulation to enable his prefabrication team to streamline the process, reduce costs, focus on cost and quality.
Yeah.
I mean, that's exactly what we would all like to say that we're doing, even though most of us only ever do one small piece of that. The fact that he can put that all together in one package and deliver these types of projects is really remarkable.
Yeah, really nice balance. I mean, somebody in the audience asked about automation in the factory, and he said that their focus is on people.
Yeah.
So yes, they're using technology, but technology in terms of design so that you can use relatively unskilled labour, but for the purpose of being able to employ young people and train them and also to get a factory up and running with a relatively low overhead and relying on that system.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers that he was saying about the factory were remarkably low.
Yeah.
I mean, you compared to any other factory I've ever brushed up against. I mean, the numbers that I was talking about in terms of capital investment were remarkably low.
Yeah.
And I think that you're right. There's not an over-reliance on technology. There's not a focus on using technology to replace people.
Not hard technology, not physical technology.
Right.
The technology is in the system and in the process and the
and
design.
in the digital simulation in particular, right?
Yeah.
They're doing level 3 building information modeling, and they're modeling parts and pieces, and then using that to enable more rapid fabrication, easier fabrication.
Yeah.
That's really incredible, right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that we all would like to say that we're doing, even though most of us don't ever quite get there.
Yeah. Well done with your. It can be tough work chairing a session, but you did
the
well.
team did a great job this time. We had a few people calling in doing video, and the AV team were able to sort of splice them right in seamlessly.
Yeah,
they worked really well.
Yeah.
Very impressive, the team here and sort of how it all worked.
And you're up as a presenter in this next session.
That's right, yes. In the next session, we'll be presenting some of the software development work that we've been doing, some of the open source tools that we've been building to make Passive House modeling easier and faster and cheaper and better for practitioners.
That'll be another interview.
I'll be here.
Awesome.